Good evening and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the Think Show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't come to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous one. Next week, by now, as many of you have heard, they're deporting the Hebrew Israelites out of Israel. This is a conversation that a lot of brothers who are into these false ideologies, taking on concepts they know nothing about, and it also breaks up the family, the indigenous people here of America. And them days over. We're going to have a sister from over there in Israel who's getting deported, who's being deported. She's going to be with us Wednesday. I think we're going to have to do it Wednesday morning because the time difference. I think she's like 8 hours ahead of me, or so it's going to be early, but it will be taped and it can be viewed at any time. Tonight we're bringing back a familiar family member to drop some stuff on you that this is stuff you want to hear. Like, we don't bring you stuff that you can't use. If you want a lot of fluff, if you want candy, you go somewhere else. But we're just trying to give you some tools because we're looking forward. And what we're seeing, and we're trying to give it back to you so you can share it, so you can spread it. So we really, really appreciate that. And we really, really appreciate the cash apps. You guys are off the hook. And so it's allowing us to do things that, so me and the guest right now, we were just talking about how come brothers don't build solar cities? A lot of brothers get together and build solar panels to build cities around that. How come we don't do that? Tonight, you're going to hear it's being done. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Ambassador anew.
Great Grand Rising, man. Great Grand Rising to us all. It is a pleasure to be back here once again. It's a pleasure. I mean, you were mentioning the what's happening over there in Israel and how some of them are going to be getting kicked out. That's extremely important. I mean, we talked about that quite a few times on the show here. And the reason why it's important, because it shows exactly who and what we are as beings of people. Now, many people may not agree with the Hebrew Israelites because that's exactly who we're talking about. They might not agree with all the premises and how they were developed and everything else like that. But the reason why they got the land over there in Israel is because of not actually being the Hebrew Israelite, but because they won a lawsuit that they are the original indigenous people of Earth, of the land. And these people that are over there right now are Americans. They are of the Americas, formerly known as the Americus, which we're going to be getting into. Cus are the North, South Woodland people. All right, we're going to be getting into all those different things, but that's the reason why they actually got land, their own land, over there in Israel. Now, there's surrounding how they're and why they're getting, why some of them are being deported has been going on now for about, 30, 40, 50 years, since the 60s. And some of these descendants of those people are going to be, is what you're going to be getting into on Wednesday. So I don't want to really get into too much of that. But the most important thing is that the reason why they got that is because their status on Earth. That's serious. Their status on Earth of the original beings that are of the land, right? So the reason why they got that is because not because they're Jewish, not because they're Israelis, not because they're Hebrews, not because of any other jurisdiction or whatever they want to be called. They got it because of who and what they are soulfully, genetically. The original beings on the earth. I say original indigenous Indians, original indigenous beings, because that's who we are. And Indian meaning Indios, or God within. So this is who we are. And so that's why that's really important, because the reason what we're doing here and what we've been talking about, especially through INA, the Indigenous Nations of North America, is the right to return. The right to return. We have a right to return out of the system and back into the system from which we came. Now, you've been hearing a lot about that. Now, I didn't really give too much detail in the past about the system we came out of. But tonight, you're going to get the whole entire gamut of this, and why it's so important for you to understand the reality, right? Not the base reality that they've given you, but the reality of the situation that you are in as an original indigenous being of this land, of the Americas. And originally I went off and I said North America. Why? Because we knew at that point in time that there were less than 300,000 Africans that came in. But now, as we see that the studies, and thank you, Gary, for that book that you wrote, and a few other people in the studies that they've been doing, what they've done, Colonel West and the boys, is they have lowered that number of people coming from Africa to possibly 95,000 in a 500-year period.
You know, when I first heard the story, you know how I heard the story from? This was my first somebody who actually told me about the African story other than me hearing it on Roots. I heard Stokely Carmichael. Remember him?
That's right. That was a powerful brother.
You know what he said, how many Africans they bought over?
How many?
300 million. And I was like, and that's what got me to thinking, 300 million, well, it ain't even 300 million people over here in America. If they took 300 million people away, how would they be able to reproduce? Where the children coming from? Did they have a birth dearth in that part of Africa in that time? I mean, people can just tell us stuff and we don't even think about it.
And Stokely Carmichael was a powerful dude. He was into a lot of the Bullier stuff and everything.
Yeah, and a lot of that history that they put out, I don't even follow it, because when you look, all you gotta do is look under the cover and you'll see it's bullshit, all of it. And it's just to control the masses. And you can see it in the population. They like you talk about this COVID thing. We don't even think about it. We just do what we're told. And I don't know, dude.
Well, we do know, and that's the reason why you did write your book, right? African Americans and African. And we're going to be getting into another book. Don't call my dummy no dummy. You had him on here a few weeks ago. These books are extremely important, right? This information is extremely important. But understanding who you are is even more important outside of the vision that they gave you, right? Outside of the reality that they gave you, because they gave you a reality over the past 100 years or so. They gave you a reality that you were an African American, right? Not an indigenous American, but an African American. And then they gave you a story that went behind that reality, that you came off of slave ships. And then they gave you, what did they give you? They gave you Roots, which was a made-up fictional story by an author that didn't even write the book. And it was plagiarized. He was sued and had to pay off, $600,000 to the person that he was at. Today would probably been more like $2 or $3 million in today's money. So the reality that we have to understand, and that's why when you started off with the Hebrew Israelites getting kicked out of Israel, it's very important, because they didn't get the land because they were Hebrew Israelites. You got the land because they are original indigenous beings of earth, and they have a right to the land. So everybody that is out there taking on that reality that they gave you as an African American, a black person. You have a reality that is taking you away from the very being that you are, the very history that you are, of that light being soul that is within you, and you have been cut off from the very thing that makes you who you are, which is the land upon which you stand on. I've been telling a lot of white people, you say, when you see a black person and they say that they're an African American, ask them what part of Africa did they come from. Ask them what part of Africa. Where's your family at in Africa? You know what the white people say? They say that question would get me slapped.
Right.
Whoa! A white person said that.
Yeah.
That question would get me slapped, and I said, why? Why? And they just turn red face because they can't really answer the question, but
Right.
they know something deep down inside of their spirit.
Right.
That question is very derogatory because they know something deep down inside of them that something is not right there. Right?
Or they know the truth.
And a lot of them do know the truth.
Right.
Right? A lot of them do know the truth. But this is the reason why, as we began and the right to self-determination way back in the 90s, as we began, yes, he was the first person to expose the Masonic Order. But there's a lot to go behind that as well. But he was a powerful brother. So Stokely Carmichael was a powerful brother.
No, that's Steve Coakley.
I mean, Steve Coakley. Yeah, Steve Coakley was Steve Coakley is a powerful brother. He was powerful. Right. I mean, he was naming names.
Right.
He was naming names and telling people what they were doing.
Addresses too.
He sure was. He wasn't joking around. That's why tonight we ain't gonna be joking around either, because all these phony 2-bit Indians we got running around here, attaching themselves to things that are not of indigenous nature and trying to suck the very life force out of the people who have already been beaten down to a point as to where they can barely stand, is shameful. And that's one of the things we're going to be getting into, because when we talk about who we are as beings of people and understanding why certain people around on the other side of the planet has gotten land because of who they are, you need to know right here in the Americas who you are, so that in that way you can have the right of return. And that's a key word that you're going to start hearing a lot of, right of return. And a lot of people don't want you to have the right of return. You have a right of return out of the system that you're in right now, because it's not your natural system, into the natural system of the great law of peace, of the Gashagawa, of the Americus, that has represented the Americas for thousands of years. And there's a reason why the Americus had to be developed, and the law of the great law of peace had to be developed. There was a reason for that, and that was because of all of the crap that these black-headed ones produced on the face of the earth, who are created beings themselves. So you have to understand who and what you are in order for you to understand that you have a right to return out of and back into the system upon which you came. And you say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? What that means is that right now, how that benefits you right now of thinking something like this is that whatever you're in right now, you should own outright. No taxes, nothing. You should own it outright. Why? Because it is on your land. That means wherever you are right now, there should be a system that is set up that is conducive for you and your living, for freedom, peace, and being able to have healing gardens in order for you to be able to get back into your right mind and heal your light being with your soul, and make sure that your body comes back into congruency with what you are and how you were supposed to be created. What that means is that your children would have a safe place to live, safe place to walk, and you don't have to worry about anybody getting shot or being taken advantage of or anything else like that. These are the basic things that we're talking about when we're talking about the right of return. The right of return is being able to get out of a system that was designated to destroy you, because it tried to destroy the system from which you came out of, put you into this system that we're in now to genocide you off the planet. To genocide each and every single one of you off the planet. And that has been supported by a bunch of turncoats that don't give one iota of a damn about you, your family, your children, your ancestors, nothing. They will lie and say everything that they have. And you know how you know how to tell them apart, because anytime somebody's lips are moving and their feet are standing still, they ain't going nowhere. You're staying in the same position that you've been in for over 100 years. You ain't moving forward. So we came out with that saying it's time to move forward. Keep moving forward. Right? So when I began to start talking to a lot of people about a lot of this stuff, they are still in the same situation that they're in right now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20 years ago.
Right.
So you, as an indigenous being, you as a light being within inside you, have a responsibility with the power that has been given to you through the changing aspect of this carbon 12, carbon 7 universe that we're in right now, to question your leadership, or to throw those bastards right out onto the streets where they belong, and then take it upon yourself to keep moving forward. Because now is not the time. We are knee deep. We're knee deep in their right of extermination that you're giving them. We're knee deep in their right of extermination. And anytime that you accept anything that they give you out of this system, you're accepting your own death. You're accepting your own death. And anytime you accept leadership, I don't care if you're a preacher, a reverend, there's all kinds of fancy, fine titles that people giving themselves and other people giving them. You know, I'm Reverend so-and-so, I'm Reverend Sharpton.
Excuse me, that's the right reverend.
It's not. I mean, the reason why you're laughing, because you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh because there's so many people following these made-up, fictitious leaders that they think that they're doing the right thing for them, but yet you still don't own any industries. Right? You still don't control your own economics. What do I mean by that? I'm a businessman. I'm talking to people. I'm a businessman. I own business. I said, yeah, but as soon as somebody who isn't your color, who don't look like you, says that you don't have that business no more, they won't give you no more business. Now what? Right? Everything you do is dependent on the system and the right of them accepting you in the system because you're doing what they want you to do. Every single church has sold out to what you would call Yaldabra, the actual entity that the Bible is worshiping, which is referred to as the devil, your destroyer. The one that doesn't want to see you rise up because you are the correction to the universal system, which was corrupted in its inception.
See,
so when you give this church that was risen up to tear down the Americus empire, to tear down the very framework that we had all around this planet, you are supporting the right of your own extinction. Right. And then you have a right. Then you say you want to complain. Nobody's helping me. Well, that's because you need to understand all the help that you have is right within yourself. And that's why when you rise up and you have your right to return, and we're doing it right now. We'll get into it, but we're doing it right now. A lot of people are returning back into the empire upon which they came out of, which is the Americus. And why am I so happy is because it's not just a regular nation. Nations really didn't start appearing on the scene until probably about 1960, when they had all this stuff dealing with the casinos. Right? That's when nations became important, and that's when they began to really start whitewashing all of the history and start killing everything off, such as like what they did with the people over there in the Shinnecock, the Cherokee, Chickasaw.
Tell us what happened to these people.
Well, okay, so there were. I'm gonna tell you this story about these people. There were people in the Grand Canyon. It was called Black Canyon. I believe it was called Black Canyon. And there was a tribe. Well, I don't call them a tribe, but it was the remnants of the Americus Empire that was still living in the Grand Canyon all the way up into the 70s. They were living in the Grand Canyon. Now, you know, they don't shut the Grand Canyon off to just about everybody. You can't even get into the Grand Canyon. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's because there's a lot of vortexes, and there's also a lot of other things that are in there to show you that there are pyramids, mummies, and all kinds of other different types of artifacts that are over there, where a lot of these big giant, what you would say, rock feature mountains are actually huge, large buildings that they were actually living in. But these people were living in there. And what they did, they took the whitewashed Shinnecocks from Long Island, New York. How do we know that they're whitewashed? Well, because we have a few movie stars, forgot the person's name, Purnell or somebody like that, who is actually a Shinnecock. Now, he's darker than me. He's dark. He's dark indigenous brother. And he said that his whole entire family was thrown out of that whole entire area. And after a while, they became whitewashed with people who don't even look like them. Now, who are these people that are whitewashing? They are what you would call Mongols, Asian type people, mixed in with European type people. Or they are different types of Tamahu that have mixed in together to create a race of people to displace the indigenous people and call them natives.
But check this out, man. This is what I want. This is what gets me. You see how that Washington Redskins, how the Native Americans just came and took that over, and we really didn't say nothing when it's your picture or your image on the side of that helmet. Everybody I talk to say that picture looks like their grandfather. So, I hear what you're saying. You're absolutely right. But isn't there like an out for us? Doesn't life show us what's really going on and we just ignore it?
Well, this is why I talk about the reality, right? And that's why a lot of people say that we're living in a simulation, a simulated reality. And so what happens is what they did to us, what they created, because when they began to start creating these other beings on the planet, they had to give them a consciousness. And when they gave them a consciousness, what they gave them was an ego id, right? And a subconscious. We actually operate on our light being with the soul to control the spiritual energy that is around us. Anything has a spirit, right? So there are a lot of these things that were created don't have a soul. They don't have a light being, but they do have a spirit. Right? And in order for them to be able to control that spirit, to have it functional life, they have to give it a consciousness. And what they've done to our people, they put us in a construct of a consciousness where we are now living through our egos and our ids, and programming from the outside, not from the inside, but from the outside, our subconscious. So now what's happening is that our subconscious is now running our spirit through programming, right? That's why they call TVs programming, radios programming. Everything that you do is programming. The whole entire system is a program. So naturally, how we're supposed to be doing it, we're supposed to be living within our light being soul and having that program our subconscious mind and going out and controlling our spirit and making sure that all the surrounding areas is controlled, but our life force energy. So the first thing that we have to do is that we have to understand that we're living in a made-up construct. A made-up construct. Most people think, I wish I would have did bring some pictures, but most people think that we lived in teepees. Oh, we're teepee people, this, that, the other thing. They use that word tribe. Tribes were for the Tamahu. Tribes were Tamahu, right? They were Tamahu, and they were collected in groups of tribal entities in order for them to be controlled by the larger empire forces that were around them, right? So when you look at this, it's important for you to understand that this consciousness that we're in, this construct that we're in, the way that we break out of it is begin to understand what you are from within. You are a creator being, right? You're a creator being.
I wanted to say something about, you just talked about teepees, and we're putting together, I guess the reason why he asked me to come on here is because there's so many of us now is realizing that it's time for us to take it back. That return is right in our hands, and we have to take it. And one of the things that we've done is we put together a cease and desist order that we're going to be putting out in the next few weeks. And in that cease and desist order, we're proving who they are and who they aren't. And one of the things that we're using is the teepee, because that's a Siberian culture. And we have the scientists that's already proven that they lived in teepees, and they're an amalgamated people who put together a teepee in order to do their rituals in Russia and in other countries other than here. And then they brought that culture over here, and now we're using that culture as if it's a part of our natural culture, but that culture does not belong on this land. The whole teepee culture is not us at all.
No, it's not. And I'm glad that you're talking. I'm glad that we're talking right now, because this is really important in terms of when we're talking about co-creation communities, the right to return, the returning back into the system upon which we came out of, which was very structured in a way as to where we all knew exactly how to treat each other and what to do. And then we had a structure for those newcomers or those new beings that were created, that were now placed on the earth. And we also had a structure for those people who created them, right? So when you talk about putting out the type of things that you're putting out, one of the things that we've done 4 years ago, 2016, what we did, Anna and a group of people from around the country had put out a Declaration of Independence, right? A Declaration of Independence declaring who and what we are and our right of return and our disassociation with the system. Powerful statement. Powerful statement. We sent that over to the now, and also we also let them know in this Declaration of Independence that we're not looking for their approval for anything.
That's right.
Right? We're not looking for their approval or anything. We are notifying them, because you have to understand, in their system, the way that they look at it, and a cosmic system, the way that the laws are, it's like a boat, right? Because most people don't understand the type of system that we're looking in. But what we're doing, we're taking back our cosmic boat, right? They took the boat away from us. We're taking back our cosmic boat. We're replacing our name on it, which is what we did. And then all the other little boats that are associated and that were a part of the Americus, at least over here in the Americas, are now also under the protection of the Americus as we come back together again. Mm-hmm. Right? So in understanding how the Ganasgawa, the Great Law of Peace, was actually created is very much important on how we're all going to be able to come together to be able to create this whole entire I don't like to use reunification, but the right of return to the beings upon which we are and to the system in which we are. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we did, so a lot of that had to be done in terms of not really coming out because the people are violent, man. People are violent. But anyway, our own people are violent. Our own people are violent. So now what's going on? I mean, because there's a lot of people that don't like that, right? They don't like that. So as we started coming out, a lot of people started coming together because we said what we need to do. We need to formulate a Great Grand Council. The Great Grand Council was one of the major things that they had in the Americas. We also had to formulate the system of the Great Grand Council and the system of government that was done. I'm using that word government loosely, but that's a term that people can understand upon how things were set up with inside of the Americas system, right? Under the Great Law of Peace. There also had to be a women's council. Now, under the Gana Shigawa, which is a worldwide peaceful system, there has to be a women's council in every area in order for them to choose who's going to be able to be their speaker. The speaker, in most cases, is always a male. In most cases, always a male, right? But it has to be approved by the feminine energy in order for them to be able to bring that out. So everybody has its place. And what happens is that when you begin to start looking at this, you have to give up a lot of your so-called African and Tamil tendencies as a male and even as a female in order for you to be able to put yourself into a system of peace. So what we've done also, we also had to recreate the Council of Nine. The Council of Nine is a jurisdictional type branch that is helping communities around the country take back their communities, get their children back from foster care, help them with the vaccination situation that's going on right now, help them with retaining their houses that they're trying to get. We have people up there in Alaska who have dealings with the child welfare system. Can't go into real good detail with it because a lot of it's private, but we're dealing with a lot of the governmental systems. And before that was able to happen, what we did then was communicate with as many of the indigenous leaders possible to create a decree of the right of return, a decree that will actually bring us together and tell the world that we have separated and that we're going back into what we originally came out of.
I have a question for you, Anu. Does this have, in your opinion, anything to do with what do you call it when we're coming into the reset? Do you think that has anything to do with it, like resetting to who we originally were?
Yeah. So that reset. So there's a few things that go along with the reset. The major reset began back in about when the wars really started happening. I mean, we've been in this thing now for about maybe how can I say, almost about 1,500 years, right? It took a lot of studying to come to that type of conclusion, but there's also about 1,500 years of missing information, missing history, and about another 300 to 800 years of jumbled up history, knowing that a lot of the history that we think that happened like 6,000 or 7,000 years ago may have only happened about 300 or 400 years ago, right? So the Great Reset, one of the Great Resets began with the Discovery Doctrine, which was about 1450 something. Now, you have to remember when they began to start talking about the Discovery Doctrine in 1450, 52, it was already beginning to come into fruition with whatever group of people that wanted to try to usurp and retake the power. Right? So we're talking a long time before 1450 that all this stuff was taking place. Right? And we're talking about a worldwide war that was wiping out hundreds of millions of people. So that was the first Great Reset, the Doctrine of Discovery. And what did that set? What did that set in place? That set in place a way of being able to get the black-headed ones, is what I call them, right? Those are another created people who look like us, to be able to go out into the world mainly their hemisphere, because our hemisphere, what we call our hemisphere, was off limits. They weren't really allowed to come over here. So that doctrine of discovery, the discovery doctrine, was really for a lot of Africa, taking back a lot of the places where they were created from, taking back a lot of Africa, India, China, all of those places, right? And it was in 1492 when they finally had defeated the ones that created them, that they they began to start creating. They began to start defeating them, because a lot of those people were beginning to start being exported out of Spain and all, and out of Europe, right? In 1492, what they did then was they began the process of opening up that doctrine of discovery to our hemisphere. But already the Moors were over here. Yes, I did say the Moors. They were over here as the conquistadors. And they were over here trying to get back a lot of that energy, a lot of that power that they lost over there, from the ones that they created, that they got tore up by their own little kids that they had with all those other people that the Tamahu. And they were over here killing off masses of people. How were they able to get over here? Because throughout a lot of this time, the whole entire world was under a governmental rule of peace. It was under a governmental rule of peace. And that governmental rule of peace had stopped that first major war that was going on. And that's when the Great Law of Peace came into fruition, the Ganashigawa. So when you talk about the Great Reset, there's been a couple of great resets, and every reset was so that they can get you further and further away from the truth of who and what you are.
So let me ask you about that, because I'm finding out what I'm hearing is what's going on in America, in this country, is that the government is now starting to what I call implement. What is it called? NESARA.
Okay, yeah.
Implementing it quietly by offering a lot of money to people who have jobs on top of money, and also making a lot of really poor people rich right now. They're doing it very quietly. So I was going to ask you, is that already into play right now, the NESARA Act?
Yeah, so NESARA, but people don't understand, that is a worldwide system that all the governments are expected to buy into to stop all the wars. That's the reason why Donald Trump was withdrawing all of the troops. That's why any other president that gets in will follow that same type of precedent. They are going to they have to cancel all debt. Cancel all debt and hit a reset. Right? And hit a reset. This is the reason why in the 90s, what they were doing, and even in the 60s, they were setting up for this time to come. Everybody was jockeying around. So they were having all these little wars and stuff like that. But some of these wars that they were having were ethnic cleansing wars that they didn't finish from World War II. Right? So remember that. They were still killing off pockets of indigenous people in Russia.
Yes.
China. The Philippines. Right? So NESARA is a way for them to try to, what I feel from the studies that I've done, is for the Tamahu and the black-headed ones to be able to settle their conscience of their karmic debt universally, right? Because there's a lot more things that are happening out there than people actually really know, right? It's not just about this physical stuff that you're dealing with. It's about all the things that you can't see as well. Remember, 80 to 90%, 95% of the universe you can't see, because it's not in the type of physical light you're used to seeing it.
So let me ask you another question, if you don't mind. I'm going to ask questions if it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's good.
One of the things that we have been talking about too is when you talk about what's going on, what they call the heavens, is how they've implemented certain things here on the in this part of the world or the planet, called forgiveness, because what they do, it seems like they'll tell us what they're going to do, and if we don't say no to it, then that's an automatic yes to them in the heavens. But since they know that it's wrong, they've implemented forgiveness. Is that one of the things going on in the heavens too? Is that we should forgive them for their trespass against us?
No, no, no. In fact, forgiveness, and I studied this studied this a long time. You have to get into really the serious metaphysical aspect of all this stuff when you begin to start understanding all the different types of beings of people on the planet. You have to forgive yourself for a lot of things that you've done, and you should forgive yourself 777 times more in order for you to really love yourself and come into what you are, and to be able to live as a good light soul being, right? Forgiveness for anybody else is an energy that you give to somebody to empower themselves, right? Now, what happens is that you don't have to forgive. You just don't have to have any feelings towards it. Your job is not to try to improve somebody else's being that is trying to genocide you off the face of the earth. In other words, as my wife that passed away says, don't shake hands with the devil. The devil doesn't like you, never did, and the only thing that he wants from you is death. Don't shake hands with the devil. You don't have to forgive the devil for what he is, right? When a dog jumps up and bites your ass, excuse my language, or a snake comes up and bites you with his fangs, or a lion jumps out of the tree and mauls you to death, you don't forgive that lion, that tiger, or that tamahu. You don't forgive them. They are doing what they were doing what they do naturally. Right? They're doing what they do naturally. It is up to you to understand that you have to make sure that you understand their nature. So then that way you have to constantly say, okay, I forgive myself because I didn't understand their nature. So you have to get out of their matrix. Once you get out of their matrix and begin to start seeing the truth for what it is that you can survive with, and your being begins to start enlightening, and you're able to begin to start seeing the way that you're able to start seeing, it's not about forgiveness anymore. It's about moving forward and doing the right thing. It's about creating an atmosphere and an environment that is going to be one of soulfulness, peace, loving, and caring, where people can actually grow their souls and be able to transition to the highest levels that they're supposed to be able to go to, so that they are not trapped in what you call this human condition of recycling. They call it I'm just going to say recycling, right? So
that'd be more like eternity. That's what I'm thinking it is, which is different than forever. Like it just constantly turns in cycles.
Yeah. So for some people, there isn't a forever. We have to understand that.
Okay.
Right? For some people, there isn't a forever. Right? They are spirit. They have an energy. They are trying to develop a spark so that they can have some sort of a transitioning state after what you would call death. Some people, there is no forever. Right? And it tells you right there in the in the writings and the tablets of Thoth, right, that some of these people that were created before the time of Atlantis, they were created without souls, woods, right? And then when you read into the Kemetic languages, you can understand, you begin to start finding out that they made a mistake. They felt that they made a mistake. The worst mistake that they made was create another being.
Yep.
Well, these beings that they created, they were based on no souls. They only had spirit energy.
So are those the images we see over in Egypt of people with cow heads and birds' heads and stuff like that?
Those people, those are the now those. So a lot of these images that we see over there in Egypt are some of them, will call them visitors to the earth, right? These are the Anunnaki and Anuki, right? And the Kanais or whatever. These are the visitors that came down here, and what they did And again, now, anytime that you talk about the biblical text, in most cases, what you're talking about is the history of not of indigenous people of the earth, but you're talking about the created people that were created by those who came here. Right? So when you talk about Thoth, called them the black-headed ones. They created these beings called the black-headed ones. Who are they? The Anunnaki came down and they created these beings called the black-headed ones, and they used those black-headed ones to do their bidding, to do a lot of their work that they didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a lot of these bird head people and stuff like that are part of that sect of the Anunnaki. Some of them are different from different types of races of those celestial beings that we see out there. We are different from all of the others that are on the planet, because a lot of these people came from underneath the earth.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were created for thousands of years, and then they were unleashed on the earth. And a lot of them did that through one of the pharaohs, Seth. I think it was Set. Might have been Set. Don't quote me on that one. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I think Set. And what Set did, he went in and he recruited the Palladians from another dimension, which another part of the inner earth, I believe, to be able to come up here to wage war on his enemies, which were the indigenous people of the earth. He wanted to eradicate us off the face of the earth. And so what happens is when they came up here, they found out, these Palladian type people found out that they were, how can I say, they were outnumbered. So what they did, they took those beings that they had created and spliced them with Palladium DNA and a whole bunch of other types of stuff to try to create more of these beings, more of these Tammuz, to try to unleash onto the world population to cause all this havoc, to cause war. These
Go ahead.
These are the type of histories. So this is the deep history. When you begin to start listening to a lot of the people now that have access to a lot of this information, mm-hmm. You're starting to see a lot of this stuff coming out. They don't want you to talk about this, because if you talk about this, this is really going into telling you who and what a lot of these other people are and why you differ, right? Why you differ from them. This is the reason why our right to return, the Council of Nine, the Council of Mothers, the Great Grand Council of the Americus, which is everybody is a part of that. Whoever is indigenous. I don't care what you call yourself, a tribe, a band, or whatever the situation is, you are and have the right to return to the Americus system. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have redeveloped, right? And I would say, even with what you're doing, I would like to talk to you, because you need to appear before the Council of Nine, so that way you can get the proper help that you need, and we can drive those people out of the situation that you're in and take care of them once and for all. When we work together, and the more of us that we're working together, mm-hmm. the other nations, organizations of states here in this side of the Americas will have an understanding that we did return. Mm-hmm. We can no longer operate as a separate entity.
Right. I totally agree. I've been waiting for this moment of unification. I've been waiting for it. Bringing it. As a matter of fact, I've already talked to, I'm trying to think of your head counsel, Bluefeather.
That's right.
When I get to Georgia, I already told her I was going to meet with her and bring it to her.
That's right. That's right. So that is very, very much important, because then what happens is you're going to have the support of the Council of Nine and also the whole entire Americus, right? The North Woodland tribes, Cusha nations, and all the other nations that are in there. You have the full support of what's going on there. And then what will happen is that we can place this underneath a proclamation of sanctuary. What is a proclamation of sanctuary? Well, this is the beginning of why we are developing co-creation communities, because every co-creation community will fall under a proclamation of sanctuary and develop a governmental system upon which you'll be able to govern yourselves, keep yourselves up, and make sure that you are going not to be a fictitious government, right? A zombie government. What I mean by a zombie governments of what the United States is about to become, and a lot of these other places about to become, they are governments, like a lot of these states right now are zombie states. They are constantly getting money from outside of their states in order for them to keep going, right? They don't have any real revenue. Well, that's not what we're going to be. We are resetting up. We have reset up our structure of the Americus. And all of those people, I'm going to tell you this straight up. Everybody who is not coming home is staying in the system upon which they are.
Yep.
That's just what it is. Right?
So the sad part is that they're not realizing that they only have two choices.
It is really. It really is. And we're not, you can't play around. It's time now for people to begin to start understanding that it is what it is. And this is the reason why, we really began the process of really thinking about what to do that is real. We ain't talking about no Jim Jones crap. We ain't talking about setting up a church, trying to set up some sort of a temple and everybody's coming, yum, 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 all that kind of crap, We ain't talking about setting up some Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson rainbow coalition, and preaching to the people and getting them all excited and all that other type of stuff, only to find out that you ain't got nowhere, didn't move nowhere, and your vector point is 0 from the point where you started. Moved all over the map. And you're saying, I'm counting my vector points. For all those people who know math, then my vector point is 0. Well, what does that mean? I'm right back where I started, no better off than what I was when I started feeling good when this guy was preaching about this rainbow stuff. The next thing you know, they're flying up all kinds of, gay rights flags and all that other type stuff. Nothing wrong with gay rights. Everybody can be what they want to be. But all I'm saying is that it's time for me to be where I need to be. And what I have to be is free. What I have to be is come back home. I need to be able to walk around my rivers, around my temples. What are my temples? My mounds. I need to be able to walk in the areas upon which the ancestors have walked so that I can get the energy and the information that I need in order for me to be able to move forward, in order for the children to be able to move forward. For us to be able to have a right of return means that we are able to develop our systems, our light beings and our souls, so that we can make a transition in the proper way and not get stuck in this recycled system. So, and again, people say, well, what does that mean for me right now? This right to return, okay, I'm indigenous, this, that, and the other thing. Well, now, what does it mean? First of all, what it means is that you get a whole bunch of niggas running around here talking about I'm indigenous now. Before, they were pimps out there in the streets or pimps behind the pulpit. Or they were pimps behind some sort of a political leader or anything else like that. And now all of a sudden, before they were wearing a dashiki, now they're wearing a feather in their head. Mm-hmm. Right? Now they're wearing a feather. Hey, man, we're indigenous. Yeah, sign this paper. Yeah, I'm going to give you some citizenship. I got all this stuff going for you. Yeah. Who are we talking about? Well, we're talking about those people who were up there in Flint, Michigan, who destroyed all those people up there, got them to sign up all their stuff, took the indigenous nations of North America's ID and all the stuff that they were doing.
Yep.
Right? Got them to sign. And what were they doing? When I went up there and I was talking to them, Gary was there. I said, well, who did he tell you to go? Because maybe he was trying to support whatever everybody was doing, because I don't lay claim to the United States. I lay claim to bringing people in and bringing people together. Well, this fool, the elite, was messing around with other elite, and they were getting them to sign declarations at the city council.
Mm-hmm. I know.
At the city council. And you want to know why our people are dying? Because we got turncoats like this who run around trying to get you and keep you and stay you in hell. I don't have any more time for it. Really don't. I better all around this country talk to a whole bunch of people, death threats and all. I ain't gonna meet with you. All kinds of attitude while our people are being recycled, harvested,
Yeah.
killed,
Yes.
kidnapped,
Oh, God.
disappearing, women disappearing off the street, and somebody told me I'm a chief. I'm a chief. Well, chief, what the hell have you done for the past 30 years? You've done as much as Biden's done for any black person who he calls roaches, nipping at his little hairs while he was in the pool.
You're about to make me cry because I mean, Carrie would tell you, I saw something that was so horrific, and I said, who would believe what I just saw? Just to see somebody snatch a young boy off the street and put him in the car and drive off. And then I drive up and look at them like, I saw you. And they wouldn't even look at me. They're literally snatching our children off the street.
And this is the
African Americans who are saying, listen, this is what is happening. They'll get mad at me and say, you know, we're African Americans. But that's not stopping them from taking your children off the street. They literally have a committee here complaining that no one is talking about the fact that they have snatched hundreds, maybe even thousands of children in Michigan. And the reason why these schools are closed is because that's where they're hiding them. But you don't hear it in the news because it's African Americans they're doing it to.
Yeah, so this is the reason why, you know, you got to make a choice. You're either going to be the nigger on the other side or you're going to be indigenous on the other. Right? You're either going to be with them or you're going to go back home to your own people.
Yeah.
Right? So I know a lot of people are going to be like, you know, this guy's a nutcase. He's this, that, and the other thing. But I tell you what, I've been talked to and trained extremely well in the field that I'm in. Right? And when you talk about bringing people together from all walks of life to begin to start protecting our own people, this is what I do. I don't have any ego to bruise at all. If you want to be chief over your little flower garden, that's fine with me. I don't care, because in the end, you're also on America's soil. You're on America's soil. Mm-hmm. And if we proclaim that to be a sanctuary city, then that's exactly what it's going to be. And we're going to be working with the people, the actual real indigenous people and the people there, in protecting our children. There's a lot of this ain't about race. This ain't about race, because there's a lot of people there who we have to take responsibility for and protect as well. Right? Because that's who we are as people. Now, we don't have to protect those who are trying to kill us, but we do have to protect people that are under our charge, because there's a lot of people out there right now that are taking vaccines that don't want to take them. And it ain't vaccines either. I'm only using that because that's when you say COVID-19 vaccine. Oh, I shouldn't really be saying that. When you say COVID-19, you know what they are. It's really a brand name. It's really a brand name, because it's really a biological. It's a biological shot. It's a biological programming system that they created to reprogram the human genome.
Yeah.
All right, and those people who understand this, you don't get them on CNN. You don't get them on Fox News. You don't get them on Newsmax. You don't get them on OLN. Right? So it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They are censoring everything about what's going on right now, so that way you, again, can live in the reality upon which they're creating for you.
Mm-hmm. I said to these young ones a time ago, you know, because of who we are, we've created the fourth world. And if we're not careful, we're going to end up looking at a fifth world we don't want.
Well, this is what's happening, right? And there's somebody put down here, another reason why these beings must go. And let me tell you something. Dr. Dilbert Blair. Dr. Dilbert Blair, back in the 90s, early 90s, was talking about the transformation that was happening, that began to start happening back into the 60s. He said it would be in full-fledged, and a lot of people will be feeling the height of their power by 1994. Whoa. That changes a lot of things for people mentally. Because we're talking about, we got star seeds who are being born now. They're different, and this, that, and the other thing. But actually, these star seeds have been being born for over 100 years. So everybody who's on this call right now has actually been affected by what was going on out there in the universal consciousness. Right? You already have the power. It's just that you are living in a reality that won't allow you to release it. And the reason why they won't allow you to release it is because if you gain that power again, the prophecy of the Hopi that they kept alive from our ancestors will be realized within a matter of months.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think it's coming? Because
it is already here.
Yeah, because I've got clients who are calling me, telling me that they're feeling their power coming into fruition.
And what I'm trying to say, it's already here.
Yeah.
Right? All these people talking about it's coming, oh, it's coming. They're always talking about it's coming. I'm telling you, it's already here. You already have the power within you to do those things that a lot of other people don't. Why do you think they created sports? Because the sports was an outlet, singing was an outlet, dancing was an outlet to be able to release your power in a non-harmful way so that they don't get hurt. Mm-hmm. In other words, they were using that to harness your energy so that they can grow within inside of their own selves.
We were talking about this, me and Gail, we were talking about the energy that you feel when you walk into a church. The dancing, the singing, the playing of that, all this energy and how it creates, your hairs will rise up and you feel so good. And I said, well, Gail, they are harnessing the power that we have, that same power. If we take that power to the mound, that's what they don't want us to do. They want to harness it and keep it in a building and attribute it to a Christ that they created. But if we were to attribute it to who we are, it would be different. I was just telling the Indigenous ones the other day, one of the things we got to walk out of is the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Yeah, we got to
walk away from.
Now, see, you just mentioned something that is very, very. The only thing we have to do as beings of people is keep moving. We just need to walk away.
Walk away.
Just need to walk away.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. See how much power we have, and we had this power way back in the 60s. This is the reason why they created this thing called civil rights. They created civil rights in order for you not to be able to use your power to walk away, because at the same time that they created civil rights, before that, in 1960, they developed the Declaration of Decolonization in the UN worldwide. And the only reason why a lot of these people or these places were able to decolonize the way that they were was because they used the energy that we were using from civil rights. Right? All over Africa. If you notice, when you go back, if you don't believe me, just go back and take a look when a lot of these people were decolonized. They were decolonized, a lot of these people back in the 60s, in the 70s.
Right? Isn't that what World War II was really about, though, wasn't it?
World War II was about World War I, and World War II was about extermination of pockets of indigenous people in the ancient indigenous people in the areas of Europe. They were still getting rid of people. Now I got to bring up, see, and this is the reason why we when I used to run around, so we're going to be developing an historical council. Right? You remember me saying that this historical council will lead into our education system. The education system will lead into being able to train our people and to train our educators. So when you look at books like African Americans Ain't African, you take a look at that kind of book, right? And it brings you to a point as to where, wow, man, it makes me start thinking. See, you're developing it on a non-white perspective, right? A lot of the information that I put out on my radio system and the books that is being written about the counterfeit spirits that walk among us, what I take out is I take out the white perspective. When you look at the book, Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy, what he did, he took out the white perspective. But the most important thing is that in all of these books, what they put in there are real serious questions and facts to back that up on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not an emotional book, but it's a fact. So we know a fact that in 1888, somewhere down there, I believe it was in North Carolina, white people for the first time in their history did a proclamation for themselves as a species of people never to be ruled by any kind of black people ever again.
Right.
That's deep. That was in 1888. So now you have to say, if they made that proclamation then, what the hell was the Roman Empire all about? What was the Holy Roman Empire all about? Who was really in charge of the papal bull? Where did these people really come from? Who usurped the power of all these people who were in charge, lost their power to the people that they created, to become subjects of their unmerciful obliteration themselves? And again, like we were talking about earlier in our conversation, you cannot blame. That's right. Jamil Dean is the author of Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy. Get that book. It's an educational piece. And the Americus, right? The Coosa Nation has a school, and they use it as one of their major pieces. They also use one of their major pieces, African Americans Ain't African, right? So when you begin to start looking at all this, you begin to start getting a proper perspective of where you at in history, or where you are in history, right? When you take a look at what Champollion found out on the walls of SETI 1 over there in Kemet, you begin to start understanding that they had a really serious problem on their hands when they began to start really being able to read the language upon which we left behind. Right? Because they said that what they found was so disturbing. What he found was so disturbing that if anybody in our race actually found out about this, they'll probably all commit suicide. Right? So there's a lot more going on with all these creation stories and a lot of that stuff than what meets the eye. So this is why what we have to do as a being of people, we're the only people on the face of the earth that are able to move out of this system because we don't belong here. We don't belong here. That's why we have a right of return. And the leadership that we have in place, with Dr. Tate, I use her name, Dr. Tate, because Chief Bluefeather, Dr. Tate, is because we need to know that we have people that are able to have an understanding of their educational system on the professional level. When you look at people like some other people, I'm not going to really name names, but when you look at a lot of people who are in leadership, these people know what they're doing. They're professionals, right? It's just not some, I want to just get together and start, and start a club.
Right.
These people know what they're doing financially, they know what they're doing economically, and they know what systems are all about. Right? And this is what you need. You don't need some, and anybody can learn. You don't have to have a college degree to be a leader, right? In fact, a lot of people who are millionaires today in their system don't have college degrees. That tells you everything that you need to know. But what you do need to know is that you have to have a seriousness of your soul, of an awakening within inside of yourself to understand that you have a right to return back home, back into the Americus, back into the North Woodland Indians, the South Woodland Indians back into the areas. Now, people use that word Cherokee, but Cherokee, again, I believe is a British name that they gave those people. There's a lot of other names that go along with that, so you're not really Cherokee. Oh, I'm an Iroquois. As soon as somebody comes out like that, and there's, I'm a chief from the Iroquois Nation. I'm a chief from the Creek. I'm sorry if I'm offending you, but the reality is that, if you don't know who you are, you should really step back a little bit and learn the ropes of what's going on. Come in, learn what's going on, and then you'll be able to assume your place. You'll never find a cheap operator of an organization, somebody who just came out of college, who learned how to only sit at a desk and to do inputting work. We have to be able to discern within ourselves who our leaders are supposed to be. Because far too long, you've been treading water. And now you're getting I've been treading water for so long. I'm tired. When they gonna come and help us? When they gonna come and save us? Ain't nobody coming to save you. Ain't nobody coming to save you. And you out there in the middle of the water, treading water because that's where you want to be. A whole bunch of land all over the place. A whole bunch of ships all over the place that you can actually grab a hold to and get some help.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, because I know we talk a lot about, as you say, the Americans. What about the other Aboriginal or Indigenous people across the planet? I seem to think that even though it's not being publicized, those in Australia are feeling the same energy of return that we are. What do you think about that? Or
everybody's feeling the energy because of the atmosphere that we're in right now. Okay. The part of the cosmos or whatever's happening to us, there is an organic type energy that is bombarding the earth right now, that is changing everything. All the carbon that is on the planet is changing. So everybody's feeling this energy. It's just that not everybody's going to be able to survive this energy. Okay. That's why what they're trying to do is kill off as many people as possible, so that way they'll have less of these superhuman beings to deal with.
So do you think that we'll eventually align all over the planet the way the synthetics, that's what I call them, they are aligned all over the planet? So do you think that we'll come to that as well?
Well, these synthetics, as you're talking about, these Tamahu, or the leaders of these Tamahu, are actually being governed by something else. Yeah. They are not that smart. I'm sorry.
No, they're not.
I just have to tell you, to be honest with you.
That's what
I've had a lot of dealings with a lot of these people in all different types of capacities. They're not that smart.
They're not that smart. Like everybody says, oh, they put us to sleep. No, we are like every other naturally occurring entity that has a time of rest, and they took advantage of it.
So there's a lot of things that are going on. Remember that when you know the whole entire system of this creation story from the very beginning, what I can tell you is that each and every one of you that is an Indigenous American is the correction to the whole entire universal system. You are a correction. So this is the thing that I hate you because you're black, you nigga this, you nigga that. I don't want this, that, and the other. I'm going to shoot you because you're this. No, they look at you and know that when you come, there's a correction to come. See, a correction is good for some people, but it's terribly horrible to others. Because a correction can either make you stronger or completely obliterate anything that you're doing, or show you who and what you are. Right? That's why betrayal is a hell of a thing, because people betray you just before they find out you know the truth. Absolutely. Right? And that's at your weakest point, because at your weakest point, you're like, I can't believe that this is really true. I can't believe that all this time that they were telling me that I was an African American, that I'm black, and I'm using all these terms, and that I thought that I was just a regular person, just like everybody else. I never really knew that they had studied my genetics and found out that the same thing that kills them doesn't kill us, and they don't know why. I never knew that they studied Heredolax and got blood that doesn't die, and there's more of her blood now floating around the whole entire earth than there is blood of living human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that they use all of that stuff to try to make these vaccines to kill us. I didn't realize that I had selenium melanin inside my system, and they have sulfuric melanin inside their system. Two different types of systems. One is bleach, one is a natural carbon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand about all these different types of things before, and you begin to see when you're pondering and you're thinking, that is a great time for betrayal, because people can slip right in there while you're having this momentary, it's not a lapse, but just a thinking, and get in there and take advantage of just about everything that you are.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why the Americus is so important. This is the reason why when you take a nation, I'm just going to say this for right now. When you take a nation, which I'm going to call you a state, part of an empire, empiric, the system upon which you came out of, you're more stronger, more powerful, and you have a right to be able to govern and keep your area the way that you're supposed to keep it, and the way that you want it without being interfered with. It's extremely important that we know that we have protection zones along with our co-creation zones. Extremely important that we know that we have what they call human rights zones, healing zones, education zones, right? All of these things are mixed in to a co-creation community. And then what happens is that we can do a proclamation called sanctuary, right? And those proclamations comes out of the Council of Nine, which is part of the Americus system, which is a part of the Kusa Nation type system. And if you want to, we can get into, hey, get down from over there. Sorry about that. The dog is just looking at people out the window. So if you want to, we can get into how the system actually was created and then what happened to it when certain entities began to coming in our land.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Quiet, guys. Quiet, guys.
Well, I'm so grateful that you guys let me be on here, but I am actually in the middle of packing to move to Georgia. So I'm going to get off and I'll see you guys in person.
Okay.
Love you both. And the other lady too. Thank you for having me on. Thank you so much, Anu.
Okay.
I love you as well, and happy Mother's Day. You know, a lot of people say, I don't celebrate this, I don't celebrate that. But like I told, when I used to talk to the Jehovah Witnesses, I used to tell them, I said, you want to know something? This world is filled with so much low-dimensional energy, that anytime that you have a chance to celebrate anything of goodness, take advantage of it. Because seeing these people or the people that you love may never come around again, because our lives in this system that we're in is very fleeting.
It is. It is. Love you. Gotta go.
Okay, Deborah. Thank you. All right. Yeah, man. You know, so if people want to get in contact with you to learn more about you or what you were saying, how do they do that?
Let's give them the official webpage, the official email address. And I'm going to look for that email address right now. I had it in front of me. So the official email address, if you want to start a co-creation community, you need to be put in a protection zone. You need to have sanctuary, like what we're doing over there in Flint, like what we're doing over there in Memphis, Tennessee, what we're doing over there in Butts County. If you want to be able to appear in front of the Council of Nine and plead a case for whatever is getting ready to happen, or create anything, email me at cnnasr a new thunder at outlook.com.
One more time.
CNNASR a new thunder UNDER at outlook.com. And we're going to be using that as the official, the embassy, the Americus Embassy, CUSA, state nation embassy, to be able to help people with their right of return. And there's a lot of needs that are out there, including what we're doing right now with energy. Lots of stuff that are going on, lots of great stuff, good stuff that is going on to actually really help people get through all these difficult times. If you need some information, we gave out hundreds and hundreds of these letters, declaration of vaccination letters, to help you to be able to siphon through the this COVID vaccination, this COVID vaccination type situation, and any vaccination type system that's here within this system. Another thing that we're doing is that we're representing people in the areas that you're closest to. We have representation there for you. So if you already have a nation that's established and need to have a right of return, then we have everything that you need to be able to get registered with that. We are not telling anybody to get rid of your birth certificate, to get rid of your social security number. We're not telling anybody to get rid of anything dealing with what you got now. We are in a period of transitioning, and this is not about citizenship. This is about the right to return and naturally becoming a repart of the system upon which you came out of. This is also not about a money-making thing. So that's why when you're talking about the Cash App and all that other type stuff, any donations that anybody has helps to funnel the right of return for everyone else. This is real stuff that's going on. Real stuff. We have already put our decree. It is the decree, right? The right of return decree of the Americus, Kusa Nation, and all other nations and states that are a part of this. To the majority of nations that are in the Americas, right? The Organization of American States, right? And we've also informed the UN. We also informed the State Department of the people that are existing on our land as people who are infiltrators. We've contacted all of these different entities to let them know what we're doing. So we also, within the states that we have cases in, have already contacted the Attorney General's office, their all of their offices of what we call security forces. We've done a lot to begin to start opening up the door for the right of return. The other thing that we're doing now is we're developing a system of our real IDs, so then that way you can have a card for the area in which you belong in for the Kusa state or Americus nation that you're coming back into. So then that way you can see that you are a naturalized being of the land of the Americas. And so there's a lot of things that are happening that we're helping to facilitate people. The other thing that we're doing also is that we are, as we're developing the right of return, we're also going to be developing the right of returning back onto our lands. So what you'll see now is that we're formulating very loose, what we call co-creation communities, where you can have less than 5 people, but a number of people that get together to be able to form a unit. So then that way, when you become a sanctuary city and we begin to start reclaiming the lands that are ours, we'll be able to set up a co-creation community that's fully functional already, and we hit the ground running. So that's what a lot of this stuff is really about. It's about making sure that we have an educational system, a medical system, and a quote-unquote quasi-political system, hate the word, but minister the healing to our own people with with the fund be coming in to be able to help people um, get the proper housing, just like what we're doing up there in Flint right now. We're knee deep in the battle of making sure that we're putting Flint under a sanctuary city statute, and that we're taking over the whole entire area in order for us to be able to administer the healing what needs to be done. So, but the only way that we're able to do this is by your help, by you understanding who and what you are and coming back home, by you questioning your leadership and saying, why aren't we a part of the Americus? Why aren't we going back home? The Americus is a system of government that is loosely formed federations from all across the Americas. And this governmental situation, which existed for thousands of years, was the main representation for everyone else that lived in peace over here. In fact, they called this paradise for the rest of the world. So when George Washington came in, he began to start, and before then, taking the last of the 52 states and breaking it down into just, I think they say 6 original Native American tribes. So these Native American tribes, these are people who are also, what Gary says very, very eloquently, these people are foreign hostiles that originated on our side of the land. And get that book, Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy. It details when they actually really began to start showing up in here. From my own studies, I found out that they started trying to change the dress of the actual American Indian in the late 1700s. And then they began this, and from the book, Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy, you begin to start learning that a lot of these Mongolians or these Mongolian type people didn't even appear here until about 1850. Wow. That's serious. So it's very important to take what you're doing very important, to take your life very important, because for too long you've been taking yourself for granted. Remember, the only person that's coming down here to save you is yourself. The only person that's going to be able to get you out of that chair and walk out of that door of this system is your own 2 legs. And for those people who have been beat down and torn apart and aren't able to walk anymore, it's going to take the support of the other people that are around you to help you get up and walk out of that system. Come back home to the Americus, which is what we're doing. It is extremely important for all of us to understand that these co-creation communities are no joke. You can start them with less than 5 people. It doesn't cost any money. And to get registered in there. And the reason why I'm using that word registering is because we're using that to let everybody else know that we do have a population of people that do want to have the right of return, right? So as much as they took away from you, you immediately can begin the process of getting it all back. But it's up to you. It's up to you.
Well, cool, man. Well, listen. Were you guys satisfied with what he said? I know you were, because he always bring it like this. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming sharing with the group, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, I love you guys, man. I love you guys. It's really great that we have things like this to be able to go. You know that they cancel me off YouTube, so I am not the elite. So if you see something like that, please subscribe just so I can get those numbers back up there. I am not the elite. But my main channel, which is A New Thunder, the political scientist, we got about, I believe it was up to 4,000. All of a sudden it went down to 2,000. It's all over the map. You know how they do. But I am not the elite. We have other platforms. But the most important thing is if you want to develop a co-creation community, you want to be serious about returning the right of return, it's happening now. It's not something that's being set up. It's happening right now. And this is real. This ain't no money scheme. It's no pyramid scheme. We are setting things up so then that way you're going to be set up for this time going forward. This is your country. This is your country, right? This is your country. I would tell you, I would recommend, in my own humble opinion, you should exercise your right of return.
Cool, brother. We appreciate you, man. I really appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, this is how we bring it. Come on, y'all. We ain't supposed to be living like this. We not to be looking at old stories of Tupac and seeing how they just killed each other out. We supposed to be moving. This is, if your grandmama, your great grandmama could see how you living now, they'd be pissed. We got to start getting out and doing it, y'all. The co-creation communities is the simplest way. Like you said, you only need 5 people. You take 5 people when you go to the club. So these are ideas, these are ideologies, these are concepts that we talk about here at African Americans Ain't Africans. We ain't going out like no punks. That ain't happening. So I want to thank Anu again. I want to thank Deborah for coming on. And I want to thank Ian for sitting in with us, even though she didn't say nothing. We still love you. Thanks for coming in and listening. All right, guys, listen. Wednesday morning, we're going to have a sister from Israel come over, and they're getting deported. They already started giving them get out cards already. They starting to kick them out now. So why is that? We want to ask them, why is that? If you guys say that you're the indigenous people of that land, why are they kicking you out? And the answer is simple: because you not those people. Well, come on. Like the brother said, he told you how they got over there. They know this indigenous is growing. And if those people over there find that out, that they indigenous, there's going to be a problem. So let's get rid of them now. That's all that's happening. So we see it. We hope you can see it. And we hope you join us Wednesday when we had his sisters on. I hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you in a couple of days. Peace.